Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. As you can see, not a whole lot has changed since last time you stopped in, with the exception of one thing, and that is that the commission piece has now moved into the house. It's finished. Finished it up yesterday. 3 coats of polyurethane after the stain, basically, is what that was. So that's going to be delivered either tomorrow or Monday, or for you guys who are Marty McFly and have a time machine, that's going to be yesterday. So that's cool. I'm glad that that's done. This is a spare. Places that I can reach, I'm starting to run out of. Put that up there. I haven't had a whole lot of time to be out in the shop. This is Saturday. I don't have a whole lot of time to actually do a project, but I do have 2 that haven't been finished from since before. So I think what I'm going to do, there's no rush on the bowl. No rush at all. Well, kind of a rush, but not a big rush. I do need to get this picture frame done. So I think that's what I'm going to work on today. And that's going to start by flippity-flopping with you guys, because I got to run some splines in this. So that's what I'm going to do now. But mercy, my table saw looks like a train wreck. I need to clean that up. I need to find my dado set. Let me do a little bit of, organizationals here, and then we'll get going. Where am I? Okay, I'm cut in half. Anyway, so I said this once before, at least on my dado set. When I set it up, when I'm doing splines, it's always a 1/4 inch, because that makes it easy in my head. I cut a 1/4 inch spline, hole, groove, and then I cut my insert 1/4 inch, boom, done, easy, right? Okay, so my dado set, what it recommends for a 1/4 inch thickness is not correct. So I always recommend double check once you have it put in. I use a dowel caliper. Okay, can you even see that around there? Okay. The setup I have is 0.2580. So I'm going to be a smidgen over 1/4 inch, and that's fine because glue. Then all you do is set up the height. How high do you want it, or how far into the frame do you want it to go? And then position it side to side as to where you want it to land. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of the thickest part. I always clamp mine twice, front and back, because I very hastily put this spline jig together, and I need to build a better one, but you know how that goes. That ain't going to happen. So let me whoop that, and we're going to get to it. As soon as I find my safety glasses, here they are. Okay, so now I have 4 equal splines, 1/4 inch wide. These aren't the splines. What is this? The dado, the groove, the splinette? I don't know. There you go. Now, because I have the cheapest dado blade on the market, it's not a super clean cut. And sometimes I care, and sometimes I don't. I think I have a 1/4 inch chisel that I can clean this up with, or, and more likely, I'll go ahead and put the spline in, and as I'm, excuse me, as I'm finishing, I'll just do the old glue and sawdust trick and fill in any gaps. Because I'm lazy. Coffee. Okay, I want to talk for a second about my thought process when I'm making a frame. Okay. I've said before, the frame should never, ever, ever detract from the art or compete with the art. Whether it is whether it's a drawing that makes absolutely 0 sense to you, but your grandchild did it, or it's a Picasso, whoever that is. So I could very easily put a beautiful contrasting spline in there and do this frame natural and have it be beautiful and blah, blah. I don't want to compete with the art. So what I normally do is I use a same species. Okay, this frame is made of oak. I'm going to find oak splines. I'm going to make oak splines. I never, almost never cut new splines. This, you've seen my shop. It's a mess, but that means there's always a piece of scrap somewhere that's going to work. And so what I have is these 3 pieces right here that are pretty close. I could get the calipers out and do it that way, but I'm just going to go, you know what? That's not too shabby right there. I like mine to come out past the corner of the frame, just out past the corner of the frame. Don't make it exact, okay? So basically, I'm going to cut these. I need obviously 4 of them because there's 4 corners, math. So I'm going to cut these over with a bandsaw and get them glued in. Yeah, glued in refreeze. We're going to glue them in. Turn away. Safety glasses. Somewhere along the lines, I learned a valuable lesson. That is dry fit all of them first to make sure that they're going to be the right size. That one's going to be good. That one's got a gnarly nick in it. We're going to hold that. I always make an extra one too. That one's going to be good. Good. This one's questionable. Oh, we need to spin that around and see. If a guy would clean off his workbench, that's going to work. It's going to be really close, but that's okay because now we're gluing. Gluing. I don't know what this is from, but we're going to use it. Okay. Glue, whatever. Put it in the groove or put it on the thing. It don't matter. Just so long as it's glued. And you can overdo it and get crazy, or you can just put a little dab on. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. I just kind of wiggle it back and forth. Make sure the glue is at least semi-spread. Semi. Well, unfortunately, that puts us in a little bit of a holding pattern. I can get glue everywhere. I can start cutting what's going to be my, I call them back rails. I don't know what they're called. What the art is going to back up to, and then of course be attached to that. Now you can make this out of anything, really. It does not have to be the same wood as your frame. Personally, I like it to be, but it doesn't have to be. Looking around to see what I got laying in the shop here. For instance, no, that might be too thin. Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of scrap laying. In fact, I have this from when I originally built that, the frame. And I could very easily cut that down and that would be fine. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Here's how I do this, okay? The canvas I am working with is 5/8 thickness. I made this frame to be 5/8 twice, which math, is that 1 3/4 inches? No, like I said, 1 1/4 inches. So basically I need to cut a piece down that is 5/8 thick, okay? Because I want my frame to be flush with the front of the canvas. So this is actually quite a nice specimen because I like to give myself a little bit of width in here. And here's why. I always give myself an 1/8 inch shadow line all the way around the art. I like to have a little bit of meat, okay, in this piece here, width-wise, so that I have room to run a screw through the back of it and catch the canvas frame. Not the canvas, oh no, the frame, okay? So I'm gonna see if I have a few more pieces of this, enough to go all the way around, and we'll get that cut down to 5/8 while this is drying, and at least we can get something done, right? At least we can get something done since my glue didn't refreeze. Okay, before I go ahead and start sanding, I wanted to throw something else out there. I really like the way these pieces fit in the frame. They fit really nice. I don't want to mix them up when I put them back in. So I very lightly put T for top, R for right, L for left, and V for victory. That's a B for bottom. And then on the back, like look and see, okay, well, this piece, I like this side better than this side. And then on the back side of your piece, mark a B for the bottom. And then that way, when you put them back in, they're going exactly where you took them out. It seems really simple, but listen, folks, I've messed this up before, okay? All right, now I'm gonna start the sanding thing. Okay, got all my backers sanded up. Also, a good time before you glue them in to sand your insides. Yes, it's probably not going to be seen, but what if it is? That's my attitude when I make these. What if you see it? I just 220 hand sanded it just to take some of the planer marks out. So I think I'm good enough here that these splines are stable enough that I can go ahead and cut them. And for that, I'm going to go on the bandsaw. And I'm not going to try and get right up to it because I don't want to scar the frame up. I just want to get the bulk of it down, then we'll sand down the rest with a 120. Okay, got those cut off. Obviously, you watched that. I have a 120 on there, so I'm just going to bring these down to flush with a 120 on the old Orbital. And there's going to be finish sanding involved, so I'm not really worried about, excuse me, about, ooh, I'm going to mark that up or anything like that. I didn't want saw blade marks in it, but we're going to sand it up. This guy really needs to go back to the lathe. I'll put him over here. Maybe that's what I'm doing next. I don't know. I might have time. Okay, nobody wants to watch anybody sand, so, I'll come back. Okay. Went ahead, got the inside sanded, got all of my splines sanded. That one is still up a little bit, but that's okay because I haven't done a finish sand yet. It's time to put my backer pieces in. That's the top. Did I even turn this on? Yeah. And what I do, get all the junk out of the way, I glue it and then I clamp it into place and then I shoot not a bunch but just a couple of 18 gauge nails in. I'm working with what's going to be 1 1/4. So I'm going to hit it with some 1.5 brads. And make sure, I usually, to be honest with you, I usually stand it up like this so I can see what's going on. Because you want it flush to the back. I usually do a little bit at a time. Maybe a nail, make sure it's flush, hit it with a nail, hit it with another one. The nails are really just to wait until the glue dries, but who got that kind of time, right? Don't fall. We don't want you to fall. Here's what we're going to do. Where are all my clamps at? There, now it won't fall. Let's put some glue on it. I'm basically going to do that to all of these pieces. And then we're down to, oh boy, then we're down to finish sanding. And with that pinky out, I don't know if you noticed, that means it's fancy. Now the trick is getting this to shoot to 1.25 inch board and not come shooting out. I may have just succeeded. I'm going to come out to the middle, make sure it's flush. And then come to this end, make sure it's flush. Okay. Not too bad. I'm going to do that 3 more times and we're going to be done. Okay. That's with the backers in place. Again, painting is going to come back, hit that. That's what I'm going to run my screw through to attach it to the frame. Did pretty good. Only had 1 blowout, and that was actually my fault. I wasn't paying attention to the position of the gun when I pulled the trigger. The nice thing is where it blew out. This is what happens when it's almost dinner time. Where it blew out of the side is actually going to be covered up. So I don't have to do a whole lot of work there. I cut it off, just, nail set it in, and that'll be fine. So now I'm down to basically finish sanding and staining. And again, nobody wants to watch that. So I'm going to turn some music on and go ahead and do the glue trick on my gaps, make sure everything looks good. And I'll bring it back in when we're ready to start throwing stain at it, because I got something to talk about there too. That's all I do is talk, people. I don't do no woodwork, and I'll talk to you. I'm a preacher. What do you want? That's what preachers do. They talk. All right, enough talking. Let's get to it. That's about as dust-free as this shop gets. All right. I want to talk a little bit about how I choose what color I'm staining a frame after I get a drink of coffee that I forgot that I had. So again, I don't want to do anything that's going to compete with the art. The painting that I'm framing does not have a whole lot. I don't want to say it's a dark painting, but there's not a whole lot of light if you really look at it. It's a landscape, mountains, ponds, pine trees, things of that nature. And so I try to pick a color that is in the painting and use that as my frame color. So for instance, if I was to just do this frame natural, it would look way out of place. It wouldn't tie in with anything in the painting. If I use I use Minwax for everything. If I use a golden oak, still not really gonna match anything in the painting. So I'm going with a provincial, which everyone says is a dark stain, and to me it's not. It's a medium stain, because it will tie in at least with some of the trees that are in the painting. What I'm trying to tell you is, don't just throw a color on it and call it good. Try to match the artwork a little bit, because again, it's not about how nice of a frame you made. you know, like I said, I spent way too long sanding this and making it as perfect as I can get, but it's not about the frame. It's about the piece of artwork that it's going around. So put some thought into it, is what I'm trying to tell you. Now, as far as finishes are concerned, I have used my favorite finish for anything really is oil-based. Don't you fall? Is oil-based polyurethane. I think it richens up the color quite a bit, but I don't have any, so I have to use water-based polyurethane, which is fine, but it just doesn't do anything for the color. I have used wax before. Can't say I'm completely happy with that. So I'm just going to get the stain in here. Again, I'm not overly worried about the back. We're just going to stain. That's what we're going to do. Okay, the frame's all done. It's hanging up in the living room. I'm going to take you in there in just a couple minutes and show you what it looks like. I'm really happy with the way that it came out. But before we run in, I just want to say you're seeing this on a Tuesday or sometime after Tuesday. The following Sunday, some of you have asked about the move and what's going on and have we heard anything. And so the following Sunday after this posts, Joy Sipu and I have an interview with a couple of churches about 3 hours from where I'm at now. And on paper, everything looks amazing. So we're going to go out and meet them, interview with them. If you're the praying type, send a couple prayers up for us. Safe travels for sure. And that everything works out. You know, that's kind of where we're at. So let's take a walk inside and I'll show you this painting. Okay, folks, there you go. The finished product. And more importantly, it fits. I love the way that color of stain plays with the painting without taking away from it. I will say, you know, don't ever point out your mistakes, but when I was putting it into place, it did drop a little bit, so it's not 100% centered, but hey, it looks pretty good and I'm pretty happy with it. It's only taken me close to 4 years, probably more than that, to frame this painting, and now it's going to a new home. You know, but that's what you do. You give. So I appreciate you folks stopping in, hanging out for a while in the shop with me. I do appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.